So the day has finally arrived. I've been waiting in high anticipation for this to happen since the first version of Melon Mix was released earlier this year. The recent 0.5 version of the Melon Mix DS emulator, Recoded, is now supported. For those who are unfamiliar with Melon Mix, it's a modified version of the Melon DS emulator created by Vitor. The sole purpose behind Melon Mix is to pretty much provide a remastered experience of Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, allowing you to play the game in widescreen, combining all of the screen elements from the DS's 2 screens into one singular screen, a bunch of improvements to the heads-up display, full controller support, and HD cutscene integration. It was revealed a little while ago that Vitor is also working on getting Recoded compatible with this modified version to bring forth all of the improvements that 358 over 2 days has seen so far for the game, and with the recent 0.5 version, it is here. In the version previous to this one, Recoded was playable. However, there were quite a lot of issues with the heads-up display. Now, with this recent version, it pretty much brings the widescreen support as well as most of the support towards the improved heads-up display and mixing in the 2 screens into one available. So you can, pretty much play Recoded from start to finish. That being said though, there is still some work that needs to be done here. Some of the HUD elements are a little bit buggy, very on brand with the theme of Recoded. But the initial support is here and it's simply fantastic. Now the Melon DS allows you to increase the internal resolution of any DS game you're playing. This is not a feature that's exclusive to the Melon Mix version of the emulator, but this means that we can bump Recoded's resolution all the way up to 16 times that of the original DS resolution, which is 4960 by 3072. This is beyond 4K. We've also now got the widescreen, which looks simply fantastic here with Recoded, and the developers of both Days and Recoded did such a great job of translating a Kingdom Hearts game into the Nintendo DS format. Seriously, both of these games are some of the best action RPGs you can find on the DS. And honestly, playing these games on the original DS hardware, it's pretty impressive and a great showcase of what the DS was capable of. Of course, when you're playing the game at such a high resolution, you can really notice those DS textures. This almost comes across as a PlayStation 1 version of Kingdom Hearts, almost providing this weird what-if scenario of what if Kingdom Hearts 1 had originally released on PlayStation 1? Now here's the exciting thing about the visuals. As I mentioned with the last Melon Mix Days update, Vitor and a few other people helping out with Melon Mix are actually planning on importing high-resolution textures into both Days and Recoded, essentially using the textures that can be found already within 1.5 and replacing the DS textures here in both games. Danny, who is one of the people working on importing the HD textures into the 2 DS games, has shared 2 pictures with me. This was quite some time ago, so these are considered old, but just to provide an example, these 2 images that you guys are seeing right here is Recoded. At first, you might think, okay, this is Kingdom Hearts 1. No, this is Recoded running on a DS emulator with those 1.5 HD textures. And you can tell because if you look at Sora's model, that is his Recoded DS model. Even the texture for the lock-on reticle has been swapped out for 1.5's HD version. So yes, Recoded is going to receive the same thing as well. This is a pretty big undertaking. Prior to this, I didn't even know it was possible to swap out the textures of a DS game and import HD ones. Also, there are a lot of assets and textures throughout Recoded and Days where there aren't easy HD replacements found within 1.5. Also, looking at Days in 1.5, that is primarily a cutscene movie. It's not running in-engine either. These are simply just clips that play via the disc itself. So it's not like the team here can necessarily rip out all of those Days exclusive areas that you see that don't appear somewhere else within a game's files. I'm only assuming that this will mean that the team will actually have to recreate some of these textures. Now looking at the FMV cutscenes, they are still the original here in this version of Melon Mix. However, just like we saw with Days, the cutscenes from HD Remix will be fully integrated into the game, so for whenever you come across an FMV cutscene in the game, it will play the 2.5 HD remix version of that cutscene. It's not here just yet, but expect this to come in a future update. The full controller support is also fantastic. We can use the left analog stick to control Sora and the right analog stick to control the camera. We're also able to use R1 to lock on rather than having to use both shoulder buttons, and we can use the D-pad to control the command deck. Now, just like Days, even though we do have complete controller support now with Melon Mix, it's not to say that the entire camera system or movement itself has been refined so that you've got precise analog stick movement. For the camera, it's essentially emulating touchscreen controls to that of the right analog stick, and movement with the D-pad to the left analog stick. So movement is still confined to 8 directions, and camera movement isn't exactly analog stick precision. But the game certainly feels that much better being able to move Sora and the camera simultaneously with the analog sticks, rather than using the D-pad and the shoulder button. Now, the heads-up display is still a little bit buggy. There are some things that pop in from time to time, and some of the HUD assets will be in places it shouldn't be. For the most part, it works quite well, and obviously it will improve as Melon Mix gets updated. The HUD toggle that was introduced in a recent version of Melon Mix for Days has also been implemented here into the recoded version, though this is still a little bit buggy. We can basically toggle 3 different settings of the HUD. Now, the only thing here with losing out on the second screen being displayed constantly while playing Recoded is that usually you're able to change your Keyblade abilities on the fly with the touchscreen. And because Melon Mix is combining all of the elements of both screens into one, this now means that in order to activate different Keyblade abilities, you actually have to access that via the camp menu. This isn't really a big deal, and honestly, when I'm playing Recoded on a DS, I generally do this anyway and not via the touchscreen while I'm actually in gameplay. It's not a huge deal, it just means you have to access a menu to switch around your Keyblade abilities and choose what one you want to work towards unlocking. Melon Mix, though, just continues to impress me, breathing some new life into the DS Kingdom Hearts games. As we know, Square Enix are likely never to return to these to give them proper remasters or remakes. So it's been left in the hands of the community, and the community are doing an insanely good job here. Recoded is especially exciting though, because in my opinion, it is the better Kingdom Hearts game out of the DS Cage games. Now, this is strictly only looking at the gameplay side of things. The story is perhaps the weakest out of the entire series, but Hand absolutely cooked and further refines the Kingdom Hearts gameplay here in Recoded, taking everything they learned through the development of Days and improved upon it here in this game. Obviously taking a lot of influence from the command deck system that was introduced in Birth by Sleep a year before this game's release. Hence why I think that Days is a more deserving game for a remake compared to Recoded, because for one, it's got the better story, but 2, improvement upon the combat system, as Days' combat system just didn't feel that great. I also wasn't really a big fan of the panel system in Days as well, and much prefer the stat matrix that we got for Recoded. So now with Melon Mix, you're able to appreciate its tight combat system that much more. The link to the newest version of Melon Mix is in the description down below. This will allow you to play basically a remastered version of both Recoded and Days. A massive thanks goes out to both Vitor and their team currently working on this. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with everything going on here. Check out my other social media platforms, links in the description down below. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.